Hello and welcome to this SonicJs Node.js CMS overview and demo. So we're going to get started with just some kind of overview details of the system. We'll talk about the motivation it was created, some of the tech stack it was built in, and so on. We'll do that really briefly before jumping into the actual demo. So let's get started. Alright, so I'll start out with just a little bit about me. I'm Lane Campbell. I'm the creator of SonicJs, and I've been a web developer and architect, etc. for 20 plus years. My primary focus over my career has been the Microsoft stack, so ASP.NET, MVC, SQL Server, etc. However, over the last several years, I've developed an affinity towards Node.js and modern JavaScript frameworks and stacks, Angular, Vue, React, etc. And throughout my entire career, I've had a strong affinity towards content management systems. So over the years, as I've had new projects come in, I've often looked to see if there was a match to build that solution on content management system or perhaps an application framework versus starting it from scratch. And as I go to the next slide, this kind of elaborates on some of the systems that I've used. So for example, .NET Nuke. I've got about 4 solid years or 8,000 hours of development experience on that platform, and I've developed well over 10 projects on DNN, and a couple of them being a very large scale, tens of thousands of hours of development time, etc. Drupal, I've done 2 large scale projects, 5,000 hours, and so on. So I won't go over all these, but I will go to the last one just to kind of show that in addition to the ones that are listed here, I've spent many hours doing POCs and evaluations on I've got 15 plus here, but probably well over that over the the 20 years that I've been a developer. So the specific motivation for SonicJS, in other words, the reason I decided to kind of embark on this journey to create SonicJS, well, for starters, the fact that JavaScript-based web development continues to trend. Like I mentioned, coming from the Microsoft stack, and I've certainly been exposed to various technologies over the years, but there's something I think really different about Node, and just the fact that developing server-side JavaScript makes a lot of sense as the front-end framework that you're likely using has JavaScript, and even if you're not using a JavaScript framework like Angular, Vue, you're very likely to have quite a bit of JavaScript going on in the front end. So it just makes sense from a lot of perspectives to me to have JavaScript, throughout the entire application. I think the reason that it's trending so much is, a recognition of that. And I think one of the great things about JavaScript is that whether you come from a background like I do, which is Microsoft stack, or it's PHP, or it's Ruby on Rails, Java, etc., every developer has some experience with JavaScript, coming into Node. So it's not like a complete brand new learning curve. So anyway, moving on to the next point, the other Node.js CMSs that are out there, and I've looked at all of them and done deep dives on the main ones, have one or more of the following issues. For starters, many of them are freemium type open source, so they're not really free, or they have some limitations. Many of them have weak bolt-on style extension capabilities. We'll talk about this quite a bit more when we get into the actual demo of SonicJS. It's one of the main differentiators. Many of them have weak form builder type capabilities, so the ability to create forms and allow just stuff that I think should be kind of default in any kind of enterprise level CMS is just void in actually a lot of CMS, but specifically Node.js. There's just not a lot of maturity. There's not kind of an enterprise level CMS for the Node.js platform at this time, in my opinion. And then in addition to that, there's weak page builder type capability. So in terms of like being able to visually edit a page, none of the systems that are out there, I think, really do a great job. Like if you compare what you're able to do with many of the WordPress page builder plugins, there's just nothing for Node that really even comes close to that. And then almost all of them have limited database support. So, Mongo is typically the database that'll be supported, but some of them support flat file, but there's not many of them, and not even one I can think of offhand, that has a multi-database support, which is really important in an enterprise setting where you may already have limited databases that your organization supports. And if Mongo, for example, is not one of them, then it's going to be challenging to convince your team and management to utilize that CMS. And then in addition to all that, there's quite a bit more that I've written up about my motivation for doing this. I'm not going to go over that all now, but if you click or go to the sonicjs.com/about, I've got quite a lot of details on the different principles that I think are important, and kind of a lot of the the reasoning behind me doing all this. And then lastly, before I move on to the next slide, this image is taken from the 2019 Stack Overflow survey, and you can see that programming, scripting, and markup languages, JavaScript and HTML are by far the most popular. And I think that again kind of lays some credence to the very first point I made up here. All right, so the tech of SonicJS specifically is Node.js on Express. Express being, of course, the server-side rendering engine for the basically the web server itself. It uses Handlebar's view engine, and then, as I mentioned, it's got multi-database support. So it supports Mongo, MySQL, SQL Server, a few probably not super common IBM databases, as well as Oracle, Postgres, Redis, SQLite, Flatfile, and then in-memory. And then there's a number of packages and whatnot that are used, but Loopback, ORM, and Form.io are a couple of really important ones that we'll cover a bit more as we go into the demo. And those two are, I think, great things to know whether or not you're looking to use a CMS in an upcoming project or not. Both of these are really cool things that I've really been impressed with as I've gotten to know them in detail, using them on SonicJS. All right, so without any further ado, we'll jump into the demo. The format of the demo is kind of be like this in three main parts. So we're going to go over an overview of the website that's been created with SonicJS, and then we will go into the backend administration, look at the admin UI. We'll talk about content types, form builder, content, media manager, and menu manager, and then we'll jump over to the front end and look at the page editor, CSS editor. We'll talk about the REST API, and then we will jump into a demo of creating our first Hello World module. All right, so that is going to be the part one. Please join me for part two, where we dive into the actual demo itself. Thank you.